Welcome back to the Dark Reading News Desk here at RSA 2025. Terry Sweeney here with Dark Reading. Joining me now is Theresa Lanowitz, Chief Evangelist with LevelBlue. Theresa, it's so nice to look over and see a familiar face at News Desk. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Terry. It's great to be here with you. Great to be at RSA again.
All right. Well, we look forward to your visits because you bring original research, and it's just a really great, timely pulse-taking of what's happening in the industry at large. This is your annual thought leadership research. Tell us what you found out. What were some of the high points?
So what we've just launched on April 28th is our 2025 LevelBlue Futures Report, Cyber Resilience and Business Impact. And as you mentioned, this is our annual thought leadership report. This is our flagship thought leadership report. We have thought leadership that comes out all throughout the year and is based on data that is vendor neutral, forward-looking, and actionable. And the highlights from this report are really, really fascinating and so topical and so timely. We found that organizations who are cyber resilient are better equipped to be able to innovate. We found characteristics of cyber resilient organizations. And we also found paths that organizations can take to become cyber resilient.
LevelBlue is also long enough in its own development cycle that you have year-over-year comparisons to make. Tell us about some of the changes from 2024.
So in 2024, our theme was cyber resilience. This year in 2025, our theme is cyber resilience and business impact. And what we found in 2024 was that so many organizations did not really understand what cyber resilience was, how to fund for it, who was responsible for cyber resilience. And some of the big changes we found year over year, they were largely organizational. So for example, in 2024, we found out that 72% of governance organizations did not understand what cyber resilience was. Now in 2025, that number has dropped to 55%. That's still a big number, but what we're seeing in a very short time is that we're seeing these numbers reduce dramatically. And that can be because organizations are experiencing the need for cyber resilience and experiencing the need for an organization to come together to be able to effectively keep the business running while experiencing possibly a cyber breach, some type of man-made event, or some type of natural disaster.
That 55%, though, it sounds still really high, as you said. It's surprising to me in that I think with all the attention, especially with like the new SEC disclosure rules around cyber outages and those sorts of things, there are always more governance and compliance rules and regulations to follow and to disclose when things don't go as planned. What do you make of that?
And that is absolutely one of those things that feeds into the idea and the understanding of cyber resilience. In fact, we took a look at that stat as well. And again, that stat, understanding the impact of rules, the impact of regulations, that number has decreased as well. So overall, organizationally, organizations are saying, okay, we understand it a little bit more. Maybe we've had something in the past year that we've had to adhere to. Maybe there was some type of outage that they dealt with. Maybe there was some type of new regulatory requirement that they had to deal with. Also, executives understand it a little bit better. We went from 70% of executives in 2024 saying, we're not sure about cyber resilience versus cybersecurity and how to fund it, all the way down to now we say 60% of executives are saying that. So again, still a big number, but there is progress being made. So I'm hopeful that as we move forward in 2025 to 2026, that we'll see this idea and this notion of cyber resilience come together more. And actually, if you take a look at what is going on in the cybersecurity industry right now, we're seeing more cross-functional work than ever with cybersecurity, cyber resilience, looking at working with application development teams, operations teams, line of business, and so on.
Theresa, this may be beyond the scope of the research, but are most incidents that trigger, I guess, cyber resilience, my guess is it's not technology, like somebody unplugged a server, or my sense is that most cyber resilience is about breaches, ransomware attacks, these kinds of things. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, and it is correct. It's bringing all things together, people, process, and technology. And one of the things we know in terms of investment is that organizations are investing in these cyber resilience processes. 40% of our organizations who took our survey said that they're investing in cyber resilience processes. Okay. But the thing that we have to look at that is orthogonal to that is this idea of a formalized incident response plan. And last year, only 35% of organizations had a formalized incident response plan. Now, we grew by 2% in 2025. So 37% of organizations have a formalized incident response plan. So when you do suffer a breach, an outage, some sort of catastrophic event that takes your business offline, where do you go? What do you have in your organization that is codified that says, here's how we behave? And only 37% of organizations can actually behave in an organized fashion because they're working to create that incident response plan during the time of crisis.
Oh, which is the last time you want to be doing it.
That's the last,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's talk more about the attacks. Your research covered the nature of these attacks. What were some of the findings there that were surprising or puzzling?
Well, let's start with a not too surprising. Not too surprising.
Okay.
Ransomware is still one of the things that people are so concerned about. That clocked in at #1 again this year, followed closely by phishing and business email compromise.
Okay.
Now, here comes the startling thing. Organizations are saying there are emerging type of attacks that they're concerned about. Quishing, scanning of QR codes, putting in PII, PHI into a QR code that you scan. Things such as deepfakes, AI-powered cyber attacks, attacks against the software supply chain. So these are all of the emerging types of attacks that organizations are thinking about and looking at. Now, here's the big surprising piece of data, or maybe it's not too surprising. Only 29% of organizations say that they can defend accurately against an AI-powered attack. So we have been inundated with AI over the past 2 years, and only 29% of organizations say that they can effectively defend and remediate against an AI attack. 60% of organizations say that they are having more difficulty now than ever before telling the difference between something that's real and something that's fake. So enter in those deep fake attacks, which we all need to be completely aware of.
I see some more incident response plans being hatched in the future here.
Exactly.
You mentioned the supply chain. Talk about some of the findings that emerged from your research there.
So the interesting thing about the software supply chain is there's very low visibility into the software supply chain. Only 49% of organizations say that they have a reasonable visibility into their software supply chain. 29% of organizations, they say they really don't care where their software comes from, or they don't really care about who's developing that software. And if you think about it, we're getting software from a variety of places. Open source repository, commercial off-the-shelf vendors, maybe a trusted third-party advisor that we're working with, maybe somebody's writing something in-house. So there's no real visibility into where that software is coming from, and not many people really say, yeah, we're really concerned about the quality of that software. And what we found is that if you really want to focus on cyber resilience and that software supply chain, you should be able to know where your vulnerabilities are. You're not going to get every vulnerability, but you need to be able to know where they are and prioritize those vulnerabilities. You should also be able to conduct cyber forensics on that software, in that software supply chain. You should also know what's going on with your patch releases. Are they passing or are they failing? If you have a failed patch release, you should be able to do something about it. And you should also be able to go off and assign some type of confidence level to members of that software supply chain.
So you've made an effective case for being more cyber resilient within an organization. Take us out with some thoughts around what organizations can in fact do on a practical level to become more cyber resilient.
There are 4 simple steps that organizations can do to become more cyber resilient. 1, foster a culture of cyber resilience. 2, make sure that your organization, your cybersecurity team, everybody that you're working with in that entire internal ecosystem, make sure that they are being more proactive and intentional versus reactive and transactional. And then make sure that you're elevating cybersecurity as well as cyber resilience up to the boardroom. This is a boardroom topic. This is not something that a practitioner is going to drive from bottoms up. This is a top-down decision to become more cyber resilient. And finally, understand what those emerging types of attacks, those emerging types of threats are. Look at things inside your software supply chain. How secure is your software supply chain? What are you doing with respect to AI? Both using it to be effective at defending and remediating, but also being able to defend against AI. and look at those emerging threats out there and put guardrails in place to help secure yourself.
It's a great template, and you've got the data to back it up. Theresa, thank you so much for stopping by the Dark Reading News Desk.
Thanks very much, Terry. It was great to be here with you.
We've been talking with Theresa Lanowitz of LevelBlue. This has been Terry Sweeney for Dark Reading. Thanks for joining us for this News Desk segment. We'll see you next time.